Should the Baltimore Ravens trade for Julio Jones?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for watching. We're done here. That's it.
It shouldn't even be a question.
No. There's no question about it. Again, this is the second year in a row where we've had multiple opportunities to get a top tier wide receiver. Multiple opportunities to get a top tier wide receiver. All right. Let's go through it. Last year, there was DeAndre Hopkins who went for a second round pick. I'm still mad about that. Okay, fine. Maybe Houston didn't want to trade him to us or whatever. I don't really think we were attempting to get him. You had Stephon Diggs go for a first round pick. We absolutely could have gave up a first round pick for Stephon Diggs. We didn't do that. They said it was reported that they were talking to the Vikings about Adam Thielen, and nothing came of that, so we didn't get Adam Thielen. And then you also had free agency
with Robbie Anderson, Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah, they just weren't really interested in trying to do that because they also had the draft where T. Higgins fell right in their lap, and they said, no, let's get a middle linebacker.
Yeah. Okay, so that was last year. This year, again, Emmanuel Sanders. Right, we let him go to the Bills, who beat us in the playoffs. We have AB, who's still sitting out there, by the way. AB is still out there. Just want to
Antonio was also on the list for last year as well.
Yes, right. So you have that. All of the wide receivers in free agency: Kenny Golladay, Corey Davis, Juju, all of them. And I put Juju on the list because we didn't truly make an offer for him. Like we didn't really try to get him. Like that offer I felt like was weak. Yeah. So no, we didn't really try to get any of these guys. So now we have Julio Jones, who today is being reported the Atlanta Falcons are looking to trade him because they have some cap issues over there. And they, really, I think that's just an excuse. If they were a Super Bowl caliber team, they would not be looking to get rid of Julio Jones. They would magically find a way to keep him on the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just probably easier to move on from Julio at this point. I mean, he's not in your long-term plans, and they need to open up a little room to sign their draft picks. So, yeah, I mean, if they were winning, absolutely, they would find a way to keep Julio Jones, just like the Saints found a way to keep Mike Thomas and everyone else, despite being $90 million over the cap. But at this point, what does it matter, right? I mean, Julio's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So go ahead and trade him right now when his value is not going to be any higher than it is right now moving forward. So
yeah. So okay, so let's break this down. Let's do the pros and cons of it. Okay. We'll start with the. You want to start with the pro? We'll start with the cons. Let's switch it up a little bit. The cons. Okay. He's older. He's 31. I think he'll be 32 at the start of the season. All right. He's getting paid $15 million right now.
Yeah, if he gets traded, that's his cap hit is 15 point something.
Okay, so his cap hit will be 15 million, which is high. Older wide receiver, has some injury issues, right? So you got an older wide receiver with some injury issues, and his cap hit is going to be high. Those are the cons. Is there anything else we could think of that would be a con?
No. Oh, okay. I was actually going to say in regards to his injuries, he played 9 games last year. And so, you put that on the con list. But on the pro side.
Well, let's go to the pro side.
In those 9 games, he had more yards than Sammy Watkins and Miles Boykin combined.
Yeah. So those are the cons. And, obviously, like we're for this move. You see the title of the video that they should absolutely trade for him. And here's why. Okay, he's 31 years old. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. And like B said, despite only playing 9 games last year, he's still racked up more yards than 2 of our wide receivers that are currently on the team, one of them being a starter, Miles Boykin. And even though there's this knock on him for his injuries, last year was the first time he really missed significant time since 2013, I believe. Right. The previous years, he missed a game here or there, but he didn't miss more than 1 or 2 games since 2013. Now, does he play injured? Okay, yeah, sometimes he plays a little dinged up, but look at his numbers. It doesn't seem to affect his performance on the field at all.
Everybody plays injured. Everybody in the NFL plays injured every single year.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, that's not a knock on him. And I don't really care about his age right now. Like, I don't think he's a player that's going to fall off within the next 3 years. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, I mean, we're not looking, I don't care about 5, 6, 7 years from now. Like, we're not looking to keep him for that long. So, can he play at that level for the next 3 years or so? Yeah, I think so.
And also, in regards to his injury history, Baltimore's fine in the regular season. You know, they've made the playoffs 3 years in a row. They score points in the regular season, as a lot of people like to point out. You know, they win a lot of games. They get to the playoffs. You need Julio Jones for the playoffs, not
Yes.
for the 17 regular season games. And I say 17 because I have to keep saying that to remind myself that there are now 17 games.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will not remember. But this is a 3 or 4 game signing, depending on if they end up with a 1 seed or not, and they get that bye. You need them for those 3 or 4 games because what happens? You get to the playoffs, and nobody's afraid of Miles Boykin. Nobody's afraid of Hollywood. Nobody's going to be afraid of Sammy Watkins.
No.
And teams can focus in on shutting down your run game, and it's easy to do. They score a few points, stop you on a running the ball on one drive, and now you're throwing, and you're not equipped to do it.
Right.
Bring in Julio Jones, and you have a legit threat on the outside, somebody who can make plays for you when you need them to make plays. And
yes. And I want to point out a real wide receiver that can get 50-50 balls. Right.
Yes.
I mean, it has nothing to do with his size. You know what we say here. Shout out to Emory Hunt. Size is not a skill. Okay.
Right.
Just because a wide receiver is big bodied does not mean he can get 50-50 balls. A player like Julio Jones, that man can get 50-50 balls. He can get any ball.
Yeah, he's not and that's why I don't like putting those labels. He's not a big body receiver. He's a great receiver.
Yes.
And great receivers come in all sizes. Okay?
Yeah.
And Baltimore just needs one of them. It doesn't matter what they're listed as, height and weight wise. They need somebody who can get open and catch the ball and make plays with the ball in their hands. They don't have anybody like that right now. Hollywood, shows flashes of that, and you hope he keeps developing. But Miles Boykin hasn't shown that. Devin Duvernay hasn't shown that. Sammy Watkins has that ability, but he, much like Julio Jones, it's funny because a lot of the knocks on Julio are the same knocks on Sammy Watkins, except he hasn't had near the career that Julio Jones had.
And he actually has the injury history. Like, I mean, he has an issue finishing out seasons, right?
Yeah.
Julio Jones will finish out the season. Yes, he might get dinged up here and there. Maybe he'll miss a game or two outside of last season. But Sammy Watkins only finished a full season one time in his whole career. And that's what we have right now. So, yeah, okay, he's cheaper. But, again, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Julio Jones is worth every penny of that $15 million. And, by the way, okay, it's a $15 million hit, but we all know there's a way to lower that number.
Yeah, especially with a player like Julio Jones, who you don't expect to be there long term. Throw a couple of void years on the end of a restructure and lower that number and get him on the roster and go win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And even if they don't want to do that, I think we're right around 15 million for our cap room, right? Our cap space. Sacrifice going to sign those edge rushers that we're looking to sign after the draft. Julio Jones is going to make a bigger impact than Justin Houston or Ryan Kerrigan or Melvin Ingram. I promise you. Like, I know edge rushers is a concern to people, and I'm not trying to blow it off. I would love to have edge rushers, but those guys aren't the type of edge rushers that are going to be game changers. So go for the guy that could be a game changer for this team. That's Julio Jones. So also, I need to point out that let's say we do use up our cap and sign Julio Jones. We have 2 first-round picks. Look, there's Azeez Ojulari, who's a fan favorite. Who's the other guy?
Jalen Phillips and Greg Rousseau out of Miami. They could both be there.
Yeah. And also we can package and trade up if there's a guy, whoever you think the top guy is, right? I mean, this isn't a great edge rushing class, but there's some guys that look like they might be able to come in and contribute and be a solid, productive edge rusher. So if one can fall to us, or 2, we have 2 first round draft picks, or if we need a package and move up, we can do that as well. And okay, there still might be some issues on the O line. Well, look, man, this is where an EDC we trust comes in. We have a bunch of later picks. can he make something happen with those picks? Or are we saying that something has to happen with our first 2 picks because the other picks aren't going to work out? I'm just curious because I saw a lot of comments in our other video with Orlando Brown saying that we were wrong about EDC and we got to show, give him the respect that he deserves. And I'm just looking at the players that he's drafted so far. Out of the 19 players, I only see a handful that are working out so far. And yes, it's early, and that's why I said this year is a critical year for him. But we got another draft coming up. Do you guys believe in your man or not?
Well, yeah, because I heard a lot about how good of a tackle Villanueva is, and they're signing Villanueva after the draft to play right tackle. So yeah, you still need a backup tackle in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's one spot open on the O line. You got Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. Bradley Bozeman's going to be playing either left guard or center. Mm-hmm. Zeitler's playing right guard, and then you got Villanueva right tackle, and you have. I'm assuming that Bozeman ends up at center because that's what he played in college, which means you have Ben Powers, Ben Bredesen, and Tyree Phillips all fighting for that left guard spot.
Yes.
All guys who were drafted. So do you want to just keep throwing in rookie players into that mix? I can understand you want to draft a right tackle for the future and let them develop, but as you're not going to get a high level of play out of rookie O linemen, generally speaking.
Correct.
So, they're going kind of the other direction with it. They're going and signing Villanueva. They signed Kevin Zeitler. Ronnie Stanley's coming back healthy, and I think that's where they're going to be counting on the improvement in the O line.
Yeah. Now let's talk about what it would take to trade for Julio Jones, because right now they're not looking to trade him until after June 1st. Right, where it will affect their cap less. So we're not talking about giving up any of our draft picks for this year, possibly a future draft pick or maybe a player. So what do you think the conversation would be for Julio Jones?
Pro Football Focus put out maybe a second and a fifth. Obviously, Baltimore doesn't have a second this year. Next year they do. They have a second and 2/3. So I'm not worried about the compensation at all in a Julio Jones trade. I think it would probably. I don't think you'll take a first. I think you can probably get him for a second plus, maybe a later pick, or if you just want to package those 2 third-round picks, I think that might be able to get it done. It all depends on how many people jump into the Julio sweepstakes in June.
Right. Yeah, that's more than worth it. Right. Mm-hmm. That's nothing. A second and a fifth. I believe we have a fifth. All right, we gave up a 6th next year.
Okay, so they get the 4th this year and the 5th next year.
Oh, okay. So we get a 1st, 3rd, and 4th this year, and then a 5th next year.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So they have a 5th that they're getting from Kansas City. You can give that up. Mm-hmm. Plus a 2nd, and like B said, we're gonna have some extra 3rd-round picks as well. So. It's there. The picks are there. That's easy to do. Now it's a matter of just getting it done.
Yeah, they have plenty of ammunition to make that trade happen.
So this is another scenario where we have to ask ourselves, how bad do they want it? This is a top tier wide receiver. There's no arguing that. There's no debating that. So this is a guy who can make plays. This is a guy who Lamar can throw it up and he's going to make those 50-50 catches. He's going to make that and then some. He can do everything that you want him to do. He is a difference maker. How bad do you want him? Because if you keep pinching your pennies, you keep saying, oh, well, this guy is a poor man's this, or this guy can do this for a lot less. Well, you're going to get what you pay for. Okay. I like Miles Boykin coming out the draft. I wasn't a big fan of Devin Duvernay, but I like all the Ravens. Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, all those guys. I still hope they develop into really good wide receivers, but we have to be realistic. The chances are they're not going to turn out to be much in the league, right? Mm-hmm. They're definitely not going to be on a level of Julio Jones, and even Julio Jones today, even if you think he's declining, these guys are never going to be what Julio Jones is right now. Okay, he is that kind of player. So the Ravens need to do what they have to do and get him.